Hello folks, and you are all very welcome to my new studio. I know I've been making videos out of here for the last year and a half, but now I'm not living in here anymore, so I have this entire space to become my studio, so yay! As you can see, I still have a lot of organising to do, but I'm getting there, and with this new studio should come more Manny Man Does History and more new series as well. Special welcome to my newest patrons, Samir Sekri, Smooth Weaver, Sean Clancy, Gary Spinrad, Gilbert Gann, Trenier Bocage and Vide. If you'd like to help support the creation of these videos, you can do so at patreon.com/John D Ruddy. This is a vital part of keeping this channel going, so your support is massively appreciated. Some of the rewards are custom Manny Man drawings, which are a lot of fun. To coincide with the release of The Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, this isn't sponsored by the way, but I'm just excited for the show, based on the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, I thought I'd continue my exploration into the early lore of Middle-earth. How the world was once lit by the trees of Valinor, how titans at war shaped a continent, and what exactly were the Silmarils. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon for updates on my newest videos, including my upcoming Monarchs of England Part 3, The Plantagenets. But for now, on to our video. Middle-earth and its various surrounding continents had been created by the godlike Valar to fulfill the vision of their creator Eru Ilúvatar. They were hindered by the renegade Vala, Melkor, who wanted to do things his own way, and yet only could create in mockery of what was already created by the Valar, who lived in the west, which was illuminated by the light of the two trees of Valinor. As the Vala Varda arranged the stars in the sky, the first children of Ilúvatar, the elves, awoke in Middle-earth along the Bay of Cuivanen, under the stars in the sky. They called themselves the Quendi, those who spoke. Around this time, the Maya spirit Melian travelled from Aman to the northwest region of Middle-earth, later known as Beleriand. She wanted to check out the trees and stars. Around this time also, spies of Melkor discovered the elves and captured some, dragging them to the pits of Autumno, where Melkor corrupted their form, creating orcs for the first time. To protect the trees from orcs and soon-to-awaken dwarves, Yavanna created the Ents to shepherd the forests. The Vala Orome eventually discovered the elves, but they were scared of him, believing he was responsible for Melkor's work. Orome returned to Valinor and told all the Valar that the elves had awoken. The Valar, along with their Maiar lieutenants, travelled to Middle-earth to defend the elves from the evil of Melkor, and so began the Battle of the Powers, which was another earth-shattering, titanic war, resulting in the destruction of Autumno and the capture of Melkor. He was wrapped in the chain Angainor and imprisoned in the halls of Mandos, to the far west of Aman. The Valar wanted to further protect the elves by bringing them to Valinor, but hearing the massive destruction of war from afar, the elves were hesitant. So 3 elves first travelled to Valinor as ambassadors, and saw how amazing it was, and returned and told the elves how amazing it was. But it still wasn't enough for some of the elves who chose to remain. They would be the Avari, the Dark Elves, those who never saw the light of the trees of Valinor. The main groups of elves who went on the journey were the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri. As the long journey across Middle-earth continued, because of course they walked, it's Tolkien, some groups broke off along the way, unwilling to continue deeper into the unknown. In fact, one of the elven ambassadors to Valinor, Elwë, later known as Elu Thingol, who had seen the light, chose not to continue after seeing the Maya spirit Melian in the forests of Beleriand. Many of his Teleri followers stayed too with their leader. The rest of the host finally reached the coast, where the Valar Ulmo, king of the sea, brought an entire island for them to travel on across the sea. The Vanyar and Noldor took the trip, but some of the Teleri who'd been searching for Elwë missed the boat, or in this case the island. They started building ships with some Maiar spirits to pass the time. Upon reaching Aman, the elves established their region of Eldamar. The Valar kindly cut a gap in the Pelori Mountains to allow the light of the trees to shine through. Within this gap, the elves built the city of Tirion. Eventually, the Valar sent the island back for the Teleri, and some made the journey across the sea. The island stopped off the coast of Aman, becoming Tol Eressëa. The Vanyar would move further inland to be closer to the trees, while the Noldor and Teleri stayed to the coast. The Teleri would later build ships and establish the harbour of Alqualondë. The leader of the Noldor was Finwë, and his spouse was Míriel. They had a son together, Fëanor, but Míriel died not long after his birth. Her spirit, as with any elf spirit whose body perished, went further west to the halls of Mandos, till the end of Arda. Finwë then wedded Indis, and they had 2 more sons, Fingolfin and Finarfin. There are so many names beginning with Fin in this family. Aule showed the Noldor much in the creation and fashioning of jewels. One distinct pupil was Fëanor, who invented a great many things, including the Tengwar, one of the elvish writing systems. Over in Beleriand, dwarves were now beginning to emerge, having constructed their stronghold of Belagost. They met with the Teleri who remained, now known as the Sindar. They worked with Thingol and the elves of Doriath to build the wondrous elven kingdom of Menegroth. After several ages of bondage, Melkor was released, and he immediately went to the Noldor and began stirring dissent, knowing that the Valar locked him away to save the elves in the first place. Fëanor managed to capture the light of the trees within his newest and finest jewels he called the Silmarils. Melkor coveted these jewels. Varda blessed the jewels so that no evil may touch them. Fëanor became more and more unhinged, wary of those who may steal his Silmarils, and Melkor continued to sow distrust among the Noldor, convincing them to make weapons. He convinced Fëanor that his half-brother Fingolfin was planning to usurp Fëanor as heir to Finwë, so Fëanor threatened Fingolfin with a sword. For this, Fëanor was banished by the Valar to Formenos, and with him went the Silmarils and his father Finwë in solidarity. Melkor later went to Formenos to try and take the Silmarils, but Fëanor shut the gates. His true thoughts revealed, Melkor fled the wrath of the Valar. Years later, the Valar invited Fëanor and Fingolfin to reconcile, having all the Noldor come to Valimar. At the same time, Melkor had been far south, finding the evil giant spider Ungoliant. He brought her to Valinor, and while everyone was distracted in Valimar, Melkor and Ungoliant drained the trees of Valinor of their light and life, destroying them. Manwë, the king of the Valar, asked Fëanor for the Silmarils in order to restore the light and life to the trees, but Fëanor refused. That didn't matter, because while all this was happening, Melkor stole the Silmarils from Formenos and slew Finwë. He and Ungoliant fled across the grinding ice of Helcaraxe to the far north, crossing into Beleriand. Fëanor cursed Melkor, naming him Morgoth, the Dark Lord. As they entered into Beleriand, Ungoliant turned on Morgoth, demanding the Silmarils for herself. As she grabbed him, Morgoth let out an almighty yell, and a host of Balrogs emerged from the mountains, chasing off the giant spider. Morgoth would take the Silmarils to his new main fortress of Angband, raising the triplet volcano of Thangorodrim, and placing the Silmarils upon his new crown. With the death of Finwë, Fëanor was now king of the Noldor, left with the decision of whether or not to follow Morgoth back to Middle-earth and wage war for his stolen jewels. But that's a story for another time. Thanks for watching, folks. If you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when my next videos are released. The next one will be Monarchs of England Part 3, the Plantagenets. And if you want a full preview of what this video will contain, there is a full previs version of this video available for my supporters on Patreon, where you can get a little insight into how my videos are made. And if you want to go over and comment on the history and maybe, give me a little bit of a critique, by all means, you can support me at patreon.com/John D Ruddy. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, where I hope to get live streaming some video games, old and new. I still haven't played games like The Last of Us or like loads of things like that, so I would love to share that experience with you. So, you know, you can go find John D Ruddy on Twitch. That's me. You know, it's John D Ruddy. Bye. Special welcome to my newest patrons, Samir Sekri, Smooth Weaver, Sean Clancy, Gary Spinrad, Gilbert Gann, Tranier Bocage, Vide. And thanks to all my patrons, Undersurf, Angus Clydesdale, David B, Magnus Norden, Yakin Arburus, Austin Graves, Brendan J. Cassidy, Carl D. Manry, John Maroney, Joshua Benjamin Heisler, Lepre Shea Queenvara, Mike Wise, Patrick McGrath, Rena McNeil, Serena Kajani, Paul Minogue, Arwin D, Chris Barker, Jen, Matophobia, Judy Friesen, Chair DJ, Marcus Booker, Rocket Wrench, 5 Days Late, WSG, Joseph Strand, Susuke Karyu, Jamie Wanderson, Jamie Kodovny, Cafe YouTube, Alexander, Kanku, Colton Sayer, Dylan Burns, Emer Gibson, Senan age 10, Felix Bruma, Gretchen Sand, Jefferson Yates, Josh, Catherine Gilks, Keel Adam, Kilroy McNasty, Cobrag, Lewis Kennedy, Monday Rico, Mr. Magnificent, Mr. Easy Play 2, Mike Croft, Myth Nguyen, Ryan Ilano, Seth Wiley, Stephanie Lentz, and Talitha Brower. Once again, thank you. I did. Hello.